Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And today we're taking a look, continuing our season preview series. We're taking a look today at the Calgary Flames, heading out to Alberta. And the Calgary Flames had a lot of change to their roster. They didn't necessarily lose a ton of guys. It was more about the additions that they made to the Calgary Flames so far. So we'll be looking at that. So the big loss that they had this offseason was Mark Giordano being sent to the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft. The captain will now head to Seattle, south of the border to the United States. And Gio's a big loss. I mean, especially in the press conference, once he was selected, Brad Treliving seemed pretty upset. You could tell there was definitely an emotional conversation there. And Mark Giordano obviously leaving. It's going to leave, obviously that leadership presence in the room will be gone, but also a huge hole on the back end for the Flames. So they went out and made some additions, and this is definitely an interesting look to the Flames. They didn't make any huge signings, but the guys they added should help them in the fall. You add Tyler Pitlick, who they traded from the Seattle Kraken. So he was picked by the expansion draft from the Arizona Coyotes. And then the Kraken flip him for a fourth-round pick to the Flames. A depth guy in your organization for a fourth-round pick. That's a pretty fair price. That's kind of what you get. Blake Coleman comes in through free agency. That's really the big free agent that they added this summer. Blake Coleman obviously winning 2 Stanley Cups here the past 2 years with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was a huge part of that group. The question is, where do the Flames put him in the lineup? Because if he's a top 6 center, he probably isn't the player that he was in Tampa Bay. And that's something that we are going to see. I wonder where they are going to put him on this roster. And, the thing with Daryl Sutter is, too, this is a Daryl Sutter team. You look at the guys they add, right? Pitlick, he doesn't have a great name, but he's not fun to play against. Blake Coleman, again, another guy, not fun to play against. And pretty much the epitome of Daryl Sutter players, Trevor Lewis, who he had back with the LA Kings on their Stanley Cup runs. Trevor Lewis is now a member of the Flames. One of the lower key signings of free agency, but this may be a really nice addition in that bottom 6. And again, that veteran presence, that swagger in the locker room, you're going to get that from a guy like Trevor Lewis. They also add on the back end guys like Andy Welinski, who comes in via free agency. He's been bouncing around the league a little bit, so that's a good pickup there. And they also pick up Nikita Zadorv. They pick up Big Z from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 4th-round pick. Where are the Flames getting all these 4th-round picks from to get these guys? But that's besides the point. Nikita Zadorov is a nice addition on that back end as well. Again, he's not replacing Mark Giordano, but he brings that kind of edge and that little bit of grit. And that's all these guys. They have that type of game in them. And then goaltending, they add goaltender Dan Vladar, who they traded for from the Boston Bruins for, I think it was a 5th or 6th round pick. They're just giving up all their deep draft picks. So, all right, we don't need draft picks. I don't know why they're doing that, but whatever. So they pick up Dan Vladar. He probably would have been on waivers from the Bruins. So Don Sweeney finds a way to move him out. Not a bad move. They bring in a pretty good goaltender here and a guy that, honestly could be a goaltender of the future for them. And maybe he doesn't develop into that. Maybe he does. Who knows? But there is that potential for Dan Vladar. He just wasn't going to get that opportunity in Boston. I've seen him play with the Providence Bruins in the American Hockey League. He's a pretty good goaltender. So there is potential in him, which maybe to back up Jacob Markstrom for the next couple years, maybe he'll become the starter in Calgary, maybe in 4 or 5 years from now, if not even sooner. And then we're going to take a look at their lineup, which is very interesting because it's really not that different up top. You have Johnny Gaudreau, Elias Lindholm, and Matt Tkachuk. That seems to be staying intact. None of them have been traded yet. As I say this, maybe they get traded. Andrew Mangiapane and Michael Backlund. And now you have Blake Coleman in that top 6. Like I said, I don't know if he's best suited in the top 6. But they have him there now. We'll see how that ends up unfolding. In the bottom 6, the guy that they chose to keep instead of Mark Giordano is Dylan Dubé. So hopefully he works out there. He'll continue to develop. They have Sean Monahan on the third line. I don't know if he had a bad season or was injured, but they have him listed on the third line. And then you have Tyler Pitlick, right? So there's a decent third line. And then your fourth line is just pure brute strength and grit. Milan Lucic, Trevor Lewis, and Brett Ritchie. I would not want to play against that line any day of the week. Daryl Sutter definitely did that one on purpose, and we'll see how they run that thing next season. So definitely an interesting fourth line there. And then looking at their defense, this is where they're kind of lacking. You know, you see what they've got. They got Noah Hannafin and Chris Tanev as the top pair. I wouldn't be surprised if Rasmus Andersson ends up on the top pair by the end of the season. You also have Big Z, Nikita Zadorov, and Andersson. Again, as of now, that's their top four. And then they also have Husso Välimäki, who might be a top four defenseman by the end of the year. And you also have Oliver Chillington. So we'll see how it works out. Again, you have depth guys like Andy Welinski, who they picked up as well. And then in between the pipes is where things, you know, it's not that it's up for debate because obviously it's Jacob Markstrom. But now that Dan Vladar is there, maybe that's the long-term solution for the Flames in between the pipes. So you're going to have Jacob Markstrom and Dan Vladar next season. So honestly, the Flames, you look at their top point producers last year, and you know, there's reason to believe that this team just really underperformed, and it just, you know, they had a bad season, things didn't go their way, but now it's happened for 2-3 years now, and it makes you wonder, is this just an outlier thing, just bad, you know, just little struggling blips, or is it a bigger problem? You look at their top point producers. Johnny Gaudreau led the team in points, 49 points last season. Elias Lindholm, Matt Tkachuk, Andrew Mangiapane, Michael Backlund, Sean Monahan, Big Gio, Mark Giordano, who is no longer there. Milan Lucic actually put together a pretty decent season, 23 points in 56 games. We're going to see the emergence more of guys like Dylan Dubé, Rasmus Andersson, and as those guys, you know, Husso Välimäki, as they continue to develop, they're going to rely a lot more on those guys, especially on the blue line. So, do I have the Calgary Flames making the playoffs? I really don't think so. I think there are teams that are just better than them in that Pacific Division. You don't have to worry about the California teams, maybe LA, but I'm not worried about the California teams. I'm more worried about Vancouver, Vegas, and give me your pick between Edmonton and maybe a team. I can't throw Calgary in there. I just can't. Honestly, or the Seattle Kraken. Those are really the four teams that I think have a legit chance of making the playoffs in this division. And I can't say Calgary is better than those four teams. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. Maybe they're better than the Seattle Kraken, but at most, they're fourth best in that division. And the other three teams, you know, you could even argue, like are we going to see improvement from teams like Anaheim, who had a really bad season in terms of the goal-scoring front? Maybe they get slightly better, and that's good enough to be better than Calgary. Like, I just don't know where Calgary is at right now. And they have some big contracts that are due next year. And it makes you wonder, what is the long-term plans of the Calgary Flames? We may have found it in between the pipes with Dan Vladar, but you have Johnny Gaudreau, 1 year left on his deal. He'll be an unrestricted free agent. Matt Tkachuk, he'll be an RFA next year. You've also got guys like Pitlick, Ritchie. On the back end, you have Andy Welinski, not a huge deal. So there are some contracts to this team that you're thinking they got to kind of figure this thing out this year. And we'll see what happens. So, like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Calgary Flames? Do they make the playoffs? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.